Good morning from Grand Prairie, Alberta, Canada. Hi, I'm Jeremy Hogue, owner of Hogue Publishing and designer of Glory. Please allow me to tell you a little bit about my game. Here's a prototype here. It's not the final product, don't have the right card stock and the right quality of materials, but it's here, it's play tested. Here's my agenda of what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm going to talk to you about how concise the rules are, which is a main design goal for the game. I'm going to talk to you about the nature of luck and my philosophy in this game on how it's used in the game design. I'm going to talk to you about making a game without a clear central gimmick. How I think I made a gutsy climax for the game. The art direction, and a little bit about me. All right, here we go. So, I like complex games. I've played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, Axis and Allies, Anniversary Edition. I spent a lot of time in rule books just reading them as a teenager. But I also like really short rules. For me, there has to be complexity, but that doesn't necessarily mean long rules. I wanted to make a game. I dared myself to make a game with. I was trying for 1 page of rules for a reasonably complex experience. And glorious what came of that. It does have only 1 page of rules, how to prepare the board, and a very small paragraph on how to play. The reason this can be done is because the rules are diluted through the game. That's one big reason why. And what I mean by that is that, on one side of the rules, you have the preparation and what you do on your turn. In large font with lots of white space. It's not, legal size print at the bottom of a document. It's really a short word count. You flip it over, you've got the battle rules. Again, lots of white space, big font, very clear. Comes with a full page diagram of what a round of battle looks like. Fairly simple. That's not where you spend all of your time in the game. But the rules are diluted also through getting a natural understanding of how to play when you land on spaces and learn the legend, which again doesn't have a high word count. And then you pick up the cards, and the cards might introduce new types of experiences or mechanics, again with not much word count. So you have basically many phases of ramping in the complexity of the rules so that you don't really feel it. Two other elements that keep the rules short but keep it complex. The game uses dry erase markers. So you use dry erase markers on a 8.5 by 11 hero board. 8.5 by 11, that's not true. 8 by 6 hero board. And that simplifies, believe it or not, extremely simplifies how much wordage I have to use in describing the rules. You write notes right in on your character board. There are secret quests and secret layers, monsters in the game. I don't have to, tap anything or track anything with cubes or tell you what or how to do, because everybody naturally takes a note. You've got your dry erase pen right there. It's beautiful, UV coated, very clean. You've got eraser on the end of your dry erase marker. You can do whatever you want with the board. This simplifies my telling the player what to do. It simplifies a lot of mechanics in the practice of playtesting. We've probably done about somewhere between 500 and 1,000 playtests, and I think this material change actually simplifies the word rules. And it has what I call natural mechanics. So basically through the play testing, if I thought some element was really fun, even players thought it was really fun, but it took a while to figure it out. And I had another one, and another mechanic that was really fun, added a ton of strategic depth, um, and people got it in few words without clarifying, then I would slip in whatever took the least words to describe. And this was the play testing goal. So the design goal was concise rules, for complex play, and the play testing goal was to make these natural mechanics where just about everybody interpreted the same short sentences the same way. That's pretty general to play testing. I get that, but we concentrated. We focused it very hard on that, and I think it comes out. Okay, luck. So on the one hand, in games, you've got chess, which has next to zero luck. I guess there's a little bit of luck because you could show up to a chess tournament under the weather, or your opponent, lost his book on the train that he studies from, or something like this. But basically, there's no luck in chess. And then you've got dice games. Let's say dice games you don't bet on. That's almost pure luck. If you take the betting away, I think it's pure luck. I wanted to make something in between. I wanted to sit down with a group of friends and not have to beat my brains out and see who focused the hardest for 2 hours. And then that person wins. That's a certain type of fun for some people that I wasn't going for. I've played a lot of chess. I enjoy chess. It's not always what I want to play. In this game, I want to make... Okay, this is going to sound crazy, but I want to be able to put together the perfect game, have everything going for me, trampling my opponents, and not win. I want to make a story. I want everybody to laugh at me. I want somebody else that doesn't deserve to win some of the time. So in this particular game, I've got a fate deck, and it is disciplined in the design, but it has a wide spread. It has looseness in it. You really are subject to the whims of fate when you, under your own control, draw fate cards. There's a lot of good there. People win off of fate cards. But I have had the feedback at one time I thought I was being too cruel to widen the spread, and I ended up thinking of possibilities, positive, negative, and perpendicular to positive and negative. Not every fate is clearly positive or negative. I want things to happen to you in the game. There's a lot of agency, a lot of decision making in the game. Every turn you decide where to go on the map. You're always estimating whether it's time to take down layers yet or not, or whether it's still time to, you need to build up your experience and your gear. There's always something going on in your mind. So that's to me what my philosophy of entertainment is. There's always something kind of fun that your mind is doing. And when it's not your turn, you're rolling for the monsters against your friend that you're playing across from. So there's plenty of luck in the game. It also levels the playing field. So if you've played, you play Axis and Allies every Sunday, and you want to play with some new friends who have only ever played apples to apples, then they're going to have a hard time getting to where you're at, learning the game. The first game, they're not going to be able to do anything without you correcting them. And you're probably going to win, automatically. So in this game, they have a shot at poking around on their first game and may be able to steal a game from you even if you're more experienced. And I wanted that. I wanted it to be that gateway game, where a special kind of gateway game where somebody who's experienced can have their mind entertained, but can play at the same game at the same time with somebody who has almost no experience and have fun together and not know who's going to win at the start. I also think that it adds a lot of lifeness to it. You're playing a heroic character going around trying to do good things in an unpredictable, troubled land. a part of creating that feeling is having things happen to you on the road to your adventures. So there's no gimmick in the game. Gimmick's kind of a negative word. There's no... It's a very classic fantasy, very plain premise. The value is not in the premise. I get it. There's plenty of fantasy books out there. I could make this a gimmick by making it underwater, or, change one or two surface elements of the game and make it appear fresh. Didn't want to go down that route. Wanted to make it hard for myself. Wanted to say, what is it that people like about heroic fantasy? What does it have to say? Even, this is going to sound presumptuous, but even from in a literary sense, what is it? What does heroic fantasy have to give? Why are people attracted to it? Other than, really easy, cynical answers like wanting to be powerful. I think everyday life takes a lot of heroism. And that plainness is kind of contrasts with gloriousness, like the domestic heroism of everyday life. I've got a bad hip, I'm taking a night class, I need to go take the bus, it's cold outside. I might be talking crazy, it may be hard to understand exactly where I'm coming from, or for me to articulate, but for me, I wanted a really plain, classic soil to plant my ideas about design philosophy. And that's what glory is. That might make it harder to sell, I get that. But, Kickstarter originally was about independent designers bringing something to the market that probably wouldn't have gotten there by mainstream methods. Kickstarter's been around for a while, and now there's a lot of established brands, but I am using Kickstarter for what I take to be its original vision, which is trying to do something with artistic merit that would be a bit of a hard sell, because the market is saturated with plain fantasy. I believe I am making something gimmickless that has something to give. This is a different type of game, but that difference is diluted with the play. Like, you've got hit points, but when you go into battles, you have to retreat every time to avoid dying. Yeah, under your own control. And that sounds like it doesn't mean anything. It's just a detail. This changes the nature of the game and your emotional attachment to it. It makes a lot of really fun pain, because you have to, the game doesn't hold your hand and take you out of bad situations. You have to come out of bad situations with your own wisdom and save your courage to fight another day. The devil's in the details in this, and perhaps I can move on to how I've tried to create gutsy climaxes to explain how. So you can die in the game. No guts, no glory. But you only ever do it under your own control, with your own courage. Nobody else can eliminate you from the game. And it's the chances of getting into a situation in which some combination of fate and other cards eliminates you from the game is probably, it doesn't have a number, but maybe 1 in 10,000, maybe 1 in 100,000. There's like a special combination of really weird situational elements that could occur. But barring that strange circumstance of fate, when a player is eliminated from the game, I live next to a valley, and there's this like really loud voice coming through the window. It doesn't make any sense. I'm just gonna close the window 1 second. It sounded like a school PA system. That was super strange. Okay. Um, basically, um, there's no reason to risk your game. If you wanted to test the limits of the game and say, will the game really let me eliminate myself? Then I'm not going to have any fun. Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. But getting on to what's good about it, there's no reason to risk. You don't get into situations where you have to risk your game or your character's life. But near the end of the game, that's when people tend to choose to risk it. You know, it's a 90-minute game. In those last 15 minutes, it is gets harder to get glory. You have to take on these big boss monsters, and nobody wants to, but someone's going to do it. And they look impossible, but they're not. It's lots of playtesting behind it. And when people do that, they might get to a point where that low HP and decide to take that last roll. You know, for a 50-50 shot, give or take. Maybe 75% odds, maybe 25% odds. Feels the same. You're about to eliminate yourself from the game or win. And what's great about this is that you get to go out with a bang. Compare this with Monopoly, which is actually one of my two favorite games. But in Monopoly, you end the game by landing on somebody else's space. You saw it coming for a half an hour or an hour. And then, you know, you're gone. You know, this is very different. This is, let's say you're losing the game. Not by much. You're in the game, but you're not. Doesn't look like you're going to win. It's in, you know, it's in the final rounds of the game, and that's something that can happen in games. You can see the writing on the wall. Now you can either go out with a bang or have a shot at stealing the game. Why not? Why are you taking your turns when you're behind near the end of a game? You're being a good sport. Well, in Glory, you don't have to be a good sport. Okay? You get to go out in a blaze of glory. That's fun. You know, that's really fun. Everybody pays attention at the end. Everybody's into it. It's a spectacle. And you either win the game or you die trying. So there's player elimination in the game, but player elimination is not the win condition. It's a victory point game. You earn points of glory, which are both your win condition and your experience points for gaining ability cards. Because you've been retreating on your own throughout the game, and sometimes people retreat at layers and have to go back to the castle, regroup, get their HP back, maybe buy something. There's more tension in those last battles too, because you're finally deciding I'm not going to retreat. And there's a lot of good pain. There's a lot of good pain in retreating. There's a lot of good pain in dying. And games are a great place to have good pain. They're not real life. If you take it right, it's going to sound maybe a little bit too highfalutin, but you know, it's good sort of incubator for maturity. You know, you can play a game that has some relation to real life in some aspect or another and practice safely. Okay, that was a little philosophical, but moving on to art. So building an art climax. What does that mean? Well, it actually means something really specific. We're trying to, the love of a fantasy novel and a fantasy book, actually, not just a novel. The cover, the map on the inside cover, the chapter heading. Sometimes you have little ink drawings in a lot of the books when I was growing up. So I try to make a sort of help the pace of the game, the climax of the game with the art. Simon Steen was the artist. He did an amazing job. We had very thoughtful discussions every week. We've been Skyping every Saturday probably for the past 2 years here, with not very many exceptions. And how we did it is at the beginning of the game, one of the first cards you get are goods cards. Those are ink drawings or sketch drawings on parchment looking backgrounds. And they're really cool. Then you get out onto the world and you get fate cards, which are colored landscapes, the size of a card. You've got battle cards, which are more of this like sort of kinetic, cool Art Nouveau poster of the monster rather than seeing it in a fight. So it's not like a magic card depiction. It's more like seeing that monster in its glory rather than seeing it in its situation. The background is abstracted away, so you're seeing just the thing itself. And quests, you see a city in the background full card of art with text over top of it. So you're getting a lot of art here. It's not just, text below a box of art. And then when you go to layers, it's this full-on monster, black, not even a border on the card, and it looks like a book cover. That's what we were going for. It's like really, it's a painting. They're big honking pieces of art, and that's kind of the art climax. If you're going to risk your game, that I want the art to reflect that this is deep, this is meaningful, this is a climax, this is the epic ending for your game. So that's how the art climax works. And I'll end the video by talking a little bit about myself. So again, this is Kickstarter, and I believe in the original vision of Kickstarter, which is independent design. I am an independent designer, but I do have experience. I have adequate business experience for sure. I've been a project manager by trade for several years. That makes me feel comfortable with bringing this to completion and not just designing the game, getting it to market, the logistics, these things. In 2005, I wrote for Dragon magazine. Not everybody will know who that is, but this was a periodical put out by Paizo Publishing, the same publisher that puts out Pathfinder. Dragon magazine was content for Dungeons and Dragons, put out by Wizards of the Coast Hasbro. And I wrote a couple articles. One was on animated objects that I thought was really good, and another one was just a little thing on a subclass race. I actually got 8 articles in, and then the editor-in-chief changed, and in 2005, 2006, they were changing their columns a lot, like what the column types were, the names of them in the categories, and in that shakeup, some of the columns that I was reading for were gone before the articles got published. But this is to say that I know the space. Telling you a little bit more about myself, favorite fantasy novel series. Growing up, Dragonlance was huge for me. I thought that was really great. Recently, I read Dark Tower series by Stephen King. I thought it was brilliant. There's a lot of things about that are really different. And you could critique if you're a real fantasy lover that you might not like the Dark Tower series, but what I really liked about it was that the main hero, he had a bum hit. He had arthritis. He lost some fingers, and he was a gunslinger. That to me really was that, that paradox in heroism with domestic life and idealism and keeping your vision. Favorite board games, Dominion. There's actually a similarity between Dominion and Glory, in that, in my mind, in my take, Dominion is largely about, for those of you who have played, switching between getting your economy going and it's a deck building game, polluting your deck with dead cards, which give you victory points. So it's timing. It's a bit of a momentum thing. Glory is a lot about estimating when it's time to go start taking risks. You don't have to take risks at the beginning of the game, but the first person to take risks will, really jump ahead. You don't have to risk your life necessarily, but you risk wasting your time if you take on a big battle and have to retreat from it. My other favorite game is Monopoly. And what I really like about Monopoly is it taught me that you have to play a game right to get the fun out of it. I talked about what can be unfun about Monopoly earlier in this video. but it can be really, really fun if you play it right. So for me, from a game design point of view, when I'm looking at games, I'm going, what does it take to have fun with it? How much potential does it have for fun? Rather than necessarily, how do I win at it every single time? And my other favorite game would have to be Dungeons and Dragons. I've got a lot of good memories of that. I've had a day job for a long time now, busy. But there was a period of time when I played a lot of Dungeons and Dragons around. I started playing when 3.0 came out, and I thought 3.5 was also really good for those who play. And what I liked about that is that it facilitated society. If you look at old paintings from, let's say, the 19th century, I love these paintings of picnics and people outside and this idea of society. This could sound crazy, but I feel the same feeling when you schedule and try to get everybody together for a Dungeons and Dragons game. You get around a table, you socialize for quite a long time, and there's this sort of like aspect of society that I think everybody needs, and that Dungeons and Dragons helps provide. I think it's another great example of a game that can be played right, or I guess I'd kind of corner myself into saying there's a way to play it wrong, but it's a sandbox, right? And in any kind of sandbox game, it's possible to. There's a big spread of results that you can get out of it. Okay, that's my video. I thank you very much for taking a look at my campaign for Glory. I hope you enjoy the artwork. Simon Seen did an excellent job. I love the board and the iconography done by Ben Reynolds out of Toronto. Alice Stocky did the animation video. And then I found the music was a free license that I found, and the voice actor was off of a website called Voice Bunny. Thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you. In my updates, I will have the occasional video. Thanks very much. Bye.